In this video, I want to keep an open-minded and critical approach evaluating squat depth. I want to address a few key points with some data that I gathered and give you guys a more informed point of view. That first point will look at the safety of squat depth and look at if squatting deeper is more likely to cause injury. The second point will try to determine if there's added benefit to squatting deeper from a sport performance standpoint and from a muscle development standpoint. And that third and final point will be me addressing who I think should be doing which variation of squat. I appreciate you guys clicking on today's video. My name's Adam and this is Science-Based Fitness, where I make weekly fitness content helping you become a more informed lifter. So let's not waste our time, let's get right into this. Now, the first point we're addressing here is health and safety. It seems like there's a lot of literature on squat depth, and the knees and glutes seem to be a well-studied area. So the first piece of data we're going to jump into, which is also sourced in the description, so if you want to read any of this on your own, it's all linked. When it comes to squatting, there are two main forces that are driving the risk factor. The first is a shearing force, and the second is compression force. Now, the shearing force on the knee would be the tibia and the femur, and it would look something like this with the forces going in opposite direction. And just so you're aware, that was not real. But this is where we rely on our ACL and our PCL tendons for stability. One stabilizes the anterior side or the front, and one stabilizes the posterior side or the back. Now, surprisingly, the max amount of tension on the ACL we see at the 30-degree point in the squat, which is right about here. And it decreases to the 60-degree point, and that tension stays about the same until 90 degrees, where it reduces when you get below 90 degrees. So squatting for depth doesn't seem to be a problem for the ACL, but let's take a look at the PCL. The PCL tension increases at the peak, which is 90 degrees, and decreases below that point. So that data doesn't seem too concerning for full depth squats, at least when it comes to a shearing force. But we still have one other force we need to look at, which is compression force, and it's exactly what it sounds like, two forces pushing down against each other. So there's 2 points of compression that we need to worry about: when the femur and the tibia come together, which is the thigh and the shin bone, and when the femur and the patella come in contact, which is also known as the kneecap. It seems like there's quite a few variables that will affect the amount of compression force you're actually experiencing. Some of those are the load that you're lifting, so the more weight you're lifting, the larger the compression force. Also, the speed that you travel at. Even if you're doing lighter weight at a faster pace, there's more compression at the bottom of that lift. When we look at the femur and patella compression, we find that the maximum compression force is between 70 and 100 degrees. Although, as we increase squat depth, more surface area comes in contact with the patella and reduces the overall force, and the tension actually decreases between 90 and 100 degrees. And the last force is the compression against the tibia and the femur bone. This force does seem to increase the deeper we squat, but I think it's important to put this in perspective, and the study that I gathered this data from gave us a comparison of how much compression we're actually experiencing. So if we compared the compression force of a 170-pound man running at 9 miles per hour, you would find that the compression experienced at the tibia and femur are the same amount that you experience when squatting below 90 degrees, even factoring in loads. Both of these exercises seem within the capacity of what someone could handle. So it does seem like it's pretty safe for a healthy person to squat for depth. I probably should have included this in the beginning of the video. This is for individuals who have healthy knees. If you're dealing with any type of knee pain or issues, I recommend talking to your doctor, getting on an appropriate rehab plan. In full depth squats, maybe it is part of your rehab plan that they'll recommend for you, but probably best to not further injure yourself. I also don't recommend full depth squats for individuals who are dealing with a butt wink, which you can see right here. This is where your lower back rounds and your butt tucks under your body. Yes, this is actually what it's called, butt wink. This can be due to weakness or tightness and can be a limiting factor for a lot of people, and I'll address that again at the end of this video. Alright, so we covered the safety side of this. Are there added benefits to full depth squats over shorter partial squats? I think we should look at some EMG data and see if different squat depths are more effective at activating muscles. And for those of you who don't know EMG data, it's a measurement of the amplitude of the muscle contraction. When it comes to the lowering phase of the lift, known as the eccentric portion of the lift, we see that the quad muscles have relatively unchanged amounts of EMG activation. With a slight increase on the hamstring muscle in the full depth squat, the glutes seem to stay pretty consistent as well in that lowering phase, so the greatest amount of change experienced here is really in the concentric portion of this lift in the way up. The quads seem to be pretty active in the partial and parallel squat and decrease in the full depth squat, and the hamstring muscles experiencing a very small increase from the partial squat, staying pretty consistent in the parallel and full squat. And the big change is in the gluteus maximus, which is our butt muscle, whereas the glute muscles almost double from the partial to parallel squat and are over double the amount of activation from the partial squat to the full squat. Understanding all of that EMG data that we just discussed can be super helpful, especially from the muscular development standpoint. But now I want to look at the performance side of this and see if there's a direct carryover to exercise performance and the squat depth utilized. I seem to struggle finding quality data on this topic for a while, but eventually I did find a study on this, and this data was much more promising. Now, it's not incredibly surprising that the partial squat actually yielded better vertical height jumps, and I think the reason to that is these factors. A shortened movement pattern allows you to utilize your stretch shortening cycle. Working within that range might allow for those neuromuscular adaptations to be better carried over for a vertical leap. Along with the fact that the EMG data did show more quad activation in that partial squat, these muscles have more of an impact and carry over into vertical leap height. Now, with all this data, that doesn't mean this is the only squat pattern you should train with. Now, I do promise this is the last study I will bring up in reference, but a study in the European Journal of Applied Physiology was looking at squat patterns and how it applied to a multitude of different athletic metrics. But at the end of the day, they were able to conclude that regardless of your squat depth, each of the groups experienced strength gains. The deep squat group was the only ones to see lean body mass increases, jump squat height increases, and isometric strength increases. So the third and final point is me addressing who I think should be doing what type of squats. Individuals who are athletes should be mixing in partial squats, but also full depth squats, since we've shown that it's better for muscular development, and a well-rounded workout routine will be multifaceted and address each aspect of your fitness. For individuals trying to build muscle, I see full depth squats as your best option. It's going to have more muscle activation. You might be lifting less weight, but you'll just have to check your ego at the door. For those trying to lose weight, personally, I recommend you doing whatever type of squat you can best perform. So if full depth squats are something within your realm that you can handle, then that's great. If you're working towards it, that's good too. Basically, staying active and mixing in more movement will be your best case scenario. If you guys are struggling with that full range of motion and you experience butt wink, let me know in the comments if you want to see a video on that, and I'll make a full-length video on that topic. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you found value, please hit that like button. These videos take a lot of time and research. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.